I'm going to have to go out on a limb here.
That just stuck with me.
So much of life these days feels like it's performance.
Like, I hated it.
Living in alignment, living more authentically.
But the payoff is just so much more rewarding.
Hey there. Welcome to I'll Go First, a podcast where real life meets real talk, and we help you to live more authentically and thrive mentally. I'm Matthew Rippey Young, a psychologist here in Ottawa.
And I'm Nancy Ceresia, a life coach, also based in the Ottawa area.
So welcome to our first episode. This is mostly just like an introduction about, who we are and what we hope to do.
Exactly.
To give you a preview of what's to come.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll go first.
Okay.
I'm Matthew Rippey Young. I'm a psychologist based here in Ottawa. I've been practicing for about 25 years. But more than that, I am a partner. I'm a dad. I've got some pets, including a pig. I'm a maritimer. And I think, it's funny. A lot of my life has been, certainly my professional life, it's all been about, blank slate and not really giving too many details. Mm-hmm. And when you mentioned, we should do a podcast, I thought, I'm going to have to go out on a limb here. But I'm excited. I'm excited to share not only some of the things that I've learned through school and work, but also some of my own life stories.
Yeah.
And how that relates to the things that we do.
Yeah, me too. That, I think, is the reason this kind of came together. Is I think we have a lot of funny and relevant life stories to share, that there are lessons to be gained. So ironically, though, I'll Go First was kind of what came to me when we were talking about this. I got it from you being on a podcast. You said, I don't mind going first. I'll always be the one to go first. And I don't actually think I told you that, which is so funny that we're having this conversation now. But that's kind of the genesis of it for me, was that just stuck with me. So a bit about me. I'm Nancy. I'm a mom. I'm a professional. I've had many professional hats over my life that I've worn, and they've all culminated in experience and things that I want to share. And now I'm here as a life coach. I help people get unstuck because there's been many times in my life where I've just felt so stuck.
Yeah.
And had to unstuck myself. And not to say that the journey was solo, but it starts as a solo intention, I think. And I've worked with different therapists and different modalities along the way. Spirituality has been a very big part of my personal growth, but it all started by turning inward and having that hard look at self. And that's, kind of the lens I had envisioned bringing to this podcast. Like, how can we be gentle with ourselves? But it's so important to have that connection to self to navigate life in a fulfilling, healthy, functional way.
Well, yeah. Well, I think too, like one of the things, like I love this connecting with self business, because so much of life these days feels like it's performance. It's what people see on the outside. And that's a whole lot of horse hooey. Like,
yes.
I think, through our work, we focus a lot more on being rather than seeming or performing. Mm-hmm. And that's going to be a big part of this podcast, on helping people connect in with who you actually are, as opposed to trying to make yourself into somebody else.
It doesn't work.
Well, it never does. But man, I have had seasons where I have tried that.
Me too.
Pretty heartily.
Me too. I mean, that's what led me to turn inward. Was I followed the roadmap, the societal script of high school, then you go to college. I did take a gap year. So that was provocative at the time. But, that was the 90s. But I did all the things in all the right order, and got my diploma, and then got a job, and then got engaged and got married, and bought a house, had first child, buy second house, have second child, move from one permanent position to another. Now that wasn't as seamless. There were definitely bumps along the way, which pushed me into entrepreneurship. I guess the lie that is a permanent full-time job equals stability wasn't the case for me. I've had a few layoffs in my life. So that kind of was, I guess, the first falling away of an illusion of okay, I did all these things that I'm supposed to do, yet here I am, I'm getting laid off. My position's being eliminated. That's not something you can control, but the narrative at the time, like this was late 90s, early 2000s, tech booming, amazing.
Yeah.
And that was just what you did. And so I think that was the first time that the illusion started to fall away. And just fast forward a few more years, of living that formulaic life, which I thought was what I was supposed to be doing, I was not happy. That's not to say I wasn't appreciative.
Yeah.
Like I was so happy to become a mom, and I still am. Like that's like my best and most loved role in life. But I was like, wow, shouldn't I feel happier? I did all the things. I checked all the boxes. I'm like, this career doesn't feel as rewarding as I thought it would. And then it all started to change, and yeah.
Wow. So what was maybe the first tipper, or I'm not happy?
I think I had moved from one job to another. I think I always believed so deeply that career would fulfill me. And it's still a very important part of what I do. But I've realized there's a difference between purpose and vocation and career. And I was looking for a certain type of fulfillment and personal growth in work, in the jobs I did, that once I learned them, once I did the thing, I moved on really quickly. And so nothing was really satisfying. That little did I know, all of that was putting amazing tools into my toolkit that I would carry forward with me. But yeah, did I answer your question? What was the tipping point?
Well, it's funny because when I met you, it was not long after when I first met you that you left jobs. Or you left the stable, permanent 9 to 5, pension kind of deal. Yeah. And so I've always known you as this kind of go-getter.
Oh, thanks.
I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that, and so I didn't know that part of your story.
Yeah,
I think the part before.
It was not as fulfilling as I had hoped. There were definitely some very bright spots where I could be creative. And there was a vision that was bigger that I could really buy into. And I think that was the piece that was always missing for me. And as I moved through different jobs and, entrepreneurship and things like that, family life balance too, and work was more and more important, especially having kids. So I just became so discontent with this way that we had to live was just accepted. I hated it. I was like, 9 to 5, really? Do we know why that even was created?
Yeah, I think actually there's a lot written about that I'm blanking on now, but it's mostly about, capitalism.
It is.
Reproducing products and
getting people educated enough to work for the people that had these businesses that were thriving in the Industrial Revolution. And our weekend was to give those poor saps a bit of a break.
So they could come back and do it again.
Oh my God, yeah. 24 whole hours. And we're going to limit your work to 12-hour shifts or 8-hour shifts.
Yeah.
That is what our education and our business, our day-to-day 9 to 5, whatever, is based on. And I have always had a bit of a rebellious streak, and I always question why. I was raised Catholic. I did all of my sacraments. I like all the things. I was an altar server. Like I was in it. And then I became 15 and was like, I think I'm a good person, whether or not I go to church, actually. And so that kind of started percolating, and then the discontent with jobs and the structure that they had to be in. I was also really productive. So when you're really productive,
Yeah.
and you have to sit at your desk and like make work for yourself because you have to fill a certain amount of time, I was just like, this is killing me. It literally felt like the life was being sucked out of me. So the final time I was laid off, I decided to become a realtor. And then I've been doing that for almost 10 years. And the turn to life coaching was over that 10-year period. I left a toxic relationship that, you know, we were a toxic dynamic.
Yeah.
And so that took a lot of self-reflection. And I had to admit, like, something's not working. You know, it's not just the job that I'm unhappy with. There's something out of whack here. And I just, you know, drank the Kool-Aid for so long without question that one day I woke up and I was like, oh, there are things that are not making sense in here. And started with a lot of self-discovery and self-reflection and like, what is important to me? And that was in my mid-30s, and I did real estate, and I still am doing that. But my vocation, like I mentioned before, my purpose is coaching. It is to bring out the best in people, to support them as they discover what is their boldness, what is their gift, whether it's living the life that they have in a better, more meaningful, connected, present way, or going after crazy big dreams. Like it's not about the thing, it's about how you're thinking and how you connect yourself in that process. So that's really what pushed me into coaching, was going through that process myself and figuring out, even now, there's a lot about real estate that's really, really, really hard. A lot of people think real estate agents make so much money hand over fist. We put a sign up and boom, we've got, you know, a $15,000 check in our bank account.
And people aren't really always nice to real estate agents.
No, it's hard. I'm really proud of the fact that I've cultivated a really good group of clients that, you know, many of them I keep in touch with for years and years and years, which is so special to me. And it's that connection and that helping people piece that I love about real estate. The volatility, the unpredictability, the ton of, you have to do so much legwork and so much just constantly outreaching, and I do enjoy keeping in touch with a lot of my clients and people I've worked with, but I am realistic in what is actually in alignment, and that really isn't anymore. So so yeah, I still am doing real estate with the people that reach out to me that I've, you know, been referred to me, and so that's great. But yeah, coaching is really where I see people realize and have these awarenesses that completely change their outlook. And it's shocking and it's amazing and it's so gratifying, because I've also felt those shifts in awareness and how profound and the impact that could have on every aspect of your life. So, yeah.
Well, and there's like so much of what you've talked about that really is all the themes of this podcast.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's relationships with ourselves, you know, living in alignment, living more authentically. Because the thing is that if we tune in and we can figure out what's important to us and what our values are and like what makes us tick, then we're more likely to make decisions in our lives that'll be good for us and that even the hard stuff is easier to tolerate
Totally.
if you're not trying to live off someone else's script.
And it can be uneasy and scary at first. There's not, it's not to say there's no discomfort,
Well, yes.
but the payoff is just so much more rewarding.
Well, and I think, in reflecting on my own story, as you told yours, I did not live a very conventional life. I mean, I had some of the conventional trappings. I went high school, university, in grad school. I married my college sweetheart. We had a couple kids. We bought a house. We bought another house. We bought another house. But all the way along, a lot of my decisions a lot of people thought were weird. I've lived in a lot of places. Essentially, I followed my wife's career around, which is how I ended up here in Ottawa, kind of against my will. Which is also funny because, I left the Maritimes at 18. I couldn't get out of there fast enough. Like my father used to tell this story about how when we were in Montreal traffic, like we were probably 10 kilometers from my first apartment. We were stuck in traffic, and my father said, "I just thought you were going to get out of the van and just run the rest of the way. You couldn't get there fast enough." And yeah, I lived in Montreal. I lived in the Midwest because my wife was American, and we kept moving for a variety of reasons, and we ended up back in the Maritimes by accident, which was not actually my wish. I was apprehensive about it. Which is so funny because then when we moved here, I think I cried in the car driving all the way from Wolfville to about Moncton, which
I get it.
It's about 3 hours of crying. The kids were in the back of the car and they were like, "Is Dad okay?" But so, yeah, I made a lot of unconventional choices, but a lot of them were in living in alignment. And probably the big game changer for me was my divorce. A lot of things changed after that relationship was no longer tenable. And
I echo that sentiment.
Right? Yeah. And so a lot of things changed. And so, I continue to live in alignment, but I think a lot of people who know me personally think I didn't come into alignment until after my divorce, because that's when I started dating men. And so, which people have their opinions, they're entitled to them, but that's not the real story. I was always living in alignment, I think.
Yeah.
But, there were parts that were joyous and there were parts that weren't so good.
Yeah.
And so I have managed, also I have essentially been working for myself since 2007.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I think it's since then. Yeah, it's I left the whole reason I left the public system was because I was being harassed at work, but also I couldn't get a meeting with my boss to be able to arrange my time so I could spend the anniversary of my mother's death the first year with my father and my mother's best friends. And so I was just like, F this, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
And I went into private practice and the rest is history.
Yeah, I often am motivated by those moments where F this.
Well, right. I thought,
you're not telling me what to do.
Yeah, I have realized more and more that I really don't like that.
I don't either.
But I think I don't like it so much because I haven't had to deal with it in a long time. There was a period in the middle of the private practice career where I was working at a clinic a couple days a week. And they were really nice. But anytime I had to submit a timesheet, I was just or a vacation request, I was like, oh, this is the worst.
Yeah.
Which, it's fine. I'm
some
people,
people,
a bit of a, adjust your tiara and get your day started, I guess. But
I don't know. I don't like that either. I think time is such a valuable commodity.
Yes.
And so precious that we owe it to ourselves to really pay attention to how we're spending it.
Yeah.
It is so important to be in alignment that way.
I feel like that will probably be one of our episodes, time as the precious commodity.
Yeah.
But in terms of other things that we're likely to talk about, I think we'll probably talk a lot about mental wellness, mental health stuff.
Yeah.
I think we'll probably talk a lot about popular culture things, things like the imposter syndrome or why everybody has a narcissistic ex. Everybody's parent is a narcissist.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. And
Relationships
For sure.
relationships with self, relationship with others, how relationships with self affect your relationship with others. Yeah, I think just even like talking about some, particularly challenging times of the year, like,
Yes.
New Year's and, or the other times of the year that, there's different patterns of behavior that change, like the expectations around what summer holidays should look like for kids and for families, or
I feel like expectations is going to come up a lot with us.
yeah, I think
right?
so.
Because, I mean, that's a lot of the garbage that gets people
Yeah.
in a variety of ways.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think our approach is, less instructional, highbrow. I don't have my bow tie on, as maybe people who know me might notice. But it is going to be more conversational.
Yeah,
And looking
experience
at-
and sharing.
Yeah. Both our personal experiences and our professional experiences.
Yes. Yeah. And giving and leaving tidbits of, I guess, not wisdom. Well, wisdom, but
Some wisdom, but like also things to do.
yeah, like not just saying, well, here's a problem.
Yeah.
But deal with it. No, give you some pointers that we've found work for us, work for our clients. So yeah.
Yeah.
And have a little fun. Make fun of ourselves.
Yes. Well, that's very easy to do.
Have a laugh. But
Yeah.
And just share. Share, be open, and create connection through going first and being vulnerable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm excited that you asked me to do this. I'm glad we're doing it together.
I am too. I am very grateful.
Well, so that's probably it for episode 1. We hope you watch episode 2 and the ones that follow, and that you find this helpful and interesting. So I'll sign off. Take care.
Cheers. Bye. Take care.
Look after yourselves and each other. Ciao.
Bye.